Hello, lovely, amazing, beautiful, magical, mystical beings. Again, Allure Mystique, and I am coming to you. It is about 3 a.m. where I am, and it is a lot of activity happening. So since the spirit realm is all up and about, it has me wide awake and alert. I decided to drop this is going to be a very quick message. I actually didn't plan on doing one this year, but like I say, a lot of activity, a lot of messaging, or not a lot, but some messages coming through, but there's a lot of activity with a similar actual messaging theme, which is why I decided to go ahead and do this audio. And also, I wanted to say, I did on Thursday a full moon Reiki energy healing and release as well. And it actually was listed as private instead of public, so my apologies on that. So I am going to, and I go ahead and put that as public, so that is available to you guys as well. Note that I always tell you, right, you can tap into the full moon energy 3 days before, 3 days after. But again, this was actually channeled and charged the day of the full moon. So the energy is still there, it's flowing. If you did not get a chance to work with the full moon, you can utilize that. If you did, you can continue to utilize that energy as well. All you have to do is connect, play the Reiki video, and just accept the energy and let that flow. And I'll get a little bit into why I mentioned that as well. But so we know it is officially Mother's Day. And so I did a video last year with a message from the Ancestral Mothers that was coming directly from the ancestors, right? And so I do encourage you to go back and listen to that message if you have not, or watch that video if you have not done so or seen that one, because this is actually kind of piggybacking off of that one. One part of the message that was coming through without being redundant was talking about the rise of the divine feminine and some things that are needed and necessary as us as divine feminine and goddesses and queens and women and however you identify to be able to assist and to transition into that rise and what that looks like. And so that's kind of the same messaging that's coming up, that there is still very much, of course, the rise. This is not going to be a one-time, really quick process, but a shift is here. It is happening. We can sense it. We can see it. We can feel it all around us, from the sun shifting to the moon to the planet herself, right, who is very much a sentient, high elevated ascended being, with also what we're seeing happening around us in society. So that is still coming up, and a lot of what was coming up last year just about what that looks like in order to step into that space is still very much a theme. And so when I was just connecting with, well, wasn't actually intending to connect with, I was trying to mind my business, but cut into, like I say, they're chatty. A couple messages came through, and so it's interesting because with this messaging, I do have a lot of ancestral mothers. Of course, it's Mother's Day, right? But there are some ancestral fathers that are present as well, and so I wanted to do this message because of what the messaging is coming up for. So one thing in particular, the ancestral mothers, we are talking about the fact that what is still needed and necessary if we are wanting to or desiring to step into alignment with that shift and to actually raise the vibration of the divine feminine. And so I don't want to go into a lot of detail regarding the differences with the divine feminine and masculine in this one. I feel like that's a whole video in itself. But just to give you a small kind of idea, we can think about that yin-yang type energy, where yin represents the feminine, which is also representing more like the moon or the darkness, the subconscious. The yang is going to be more the masculine, which is just like the illumination, the action, the sun type energy, which again comes back to like our subconscious with the feminine energy, the conscious mind with the masculine energy, which we also know the majority we do not use as much of our subconscious mind, although it has a higher capacity, right? So it really is the part that also connects to the primordial, which the primordial is the the dark matter, which science has said and proven to us and stated that the majority of the cosmos and the universe as we know it is over 90% dark matter, which is the primordial, which means there is more to the universe of feminine energy. And what that is, again, is because feminine energy is that raw, pure, creative, even chaos, not in a low vibrational, dysfunctional way, energy that's all about creation. And so the primordial is what we have seen as that original source or spark that began creation as we know it, that sparked the universe as we know it, the cosmos and the planets and the beings and our us, just everything that's wrapped up in that. The universe as we know it represents more of that light, which is what shines and illuminates on that form so that we are present and having these experiences. So that's pretty much what I'm going to say about that. And with that, I do want to say, even though I do stress, the primordial kind of being that initial, right, the source, the most high, whatever, all that is, whatever way you refer to that, the divine mother or dark mother. Sometimes we say dark mother, father, light to a degree, when they kind of said that in the Bible. As we know, I talk about the Bible kind of being this magical, mystical too, right? Understanding, because universe is light when we talk about the illumination of things. With that said, though, it does not mean that the feminine is more important than the masculine, or the masculine is more important than the feminine. So that's what's coming up from the ancestral messages right now, is that while and I expect something to happen, when anything is happening in a shift, we're not going to go from 0 to 100 without some bumps along the way. There's going to be that seesaw effect where the balance and the scales are going to be tipped, and then hopefully eventually, right, well, not hopefully, but eventually it'll balance itself out. And balance does not necessarily always mean 50-50 either. And so we're kind of in that phase, right? So there is going to be a little up, a little down. However, what's coming through is that a lot of women, are actually, while we're going forward in the rise of divine feminine, we are going forward with that without the revere, the honor, and the respect of the divine masculine. And the rise of the divine feminine is not about oppressing the divine masculine. That's not going to be helpful nor beneficial nor elevating to us or to them or the planet as a whole or anything, because we're all operating truly. The goal is about oneness, right? And so that's the ultimate elevation. When you think about ascension, it's about your divinity, your sovereignty, which is also about this oneness, which is what it is when it comes to source. Because the primordial, which I do say she is able to constantly create that is because she is everything. She is all. And we are fractals of the primordial. And so the divine masculine was also a part of the divine feminine, right? The most high divine feminine, basically. And so, again, one is the divine masculine is not lesser than because we're in this rise of the divine feminine. We're in this rise because there's been this period of time within our society that has been out of balance and out of sync. And we can see that and we can witness that. And so now it's a shift that's occurring. And so that's the message that's really coming through from a lot of the ancestral mothers and from the fathers, who are they're a little low key actually, but they're present, is that, to be very clear on, as you rise is not about the suppression of the divine masculine. And to also explain, because I don't think many people understand how the divine masculine plays a part in the rise of the divine feminine. We're not talking about toxic masculinity. We're not talking about misogyny, right? We're talking about divine masculine, the truest, purest form of masculine energy, which is a orderly energy, a logical energy, even if you want to say an action-oriented energy. So let's look at it from example. If you were looking at something that was being created, while it was all spread out all over the place, or in that process, that would be the feminine, the being, the intuitive, the creative piece of it, the chaos. And then when you put that order to that, that would be the divine masculine. So we obviously see that they're both very necessary. You can't, if there's nothing to put order to, what would the divine masculine be doing? And if you don't have anything to put order to our creation, we would never move forward and see actually and manifest in what we have coming through in our experiences, right, in our reality. So again, so what's coming through particularly right now is about that is constantly key. And so what that looks like as well is going to be a space of actually needing healing for the divine masculine while we are healing and honoring and rising up the divine feminine. And I think that was something that has kind of been minimized or maybe overlooked previously, because again, the divine masculine, what it does, it actually provides protection, discernment. There's this safety, and it creates this space within a sacred space for you to be able to truly be, to exist, to create, to heal, to offer you the inner protection, the stability, so that your feminine energy can blossom and grow and be and explore and be creative and expressed in all these different things, right? And so without that, there causes a rift. Okay, so this is not about me telling you what you have to do, but just kind of explaining what that process is, and so why it's important. So it's really coming through right now as the ancestral mothers are saying that it is important to not go down that same path of wanting to suppress the divine masculine as we rise, because otherwise it's still going to set us in a backwards or regressive and a non-elevating state, right? Okay, so that's one. Really important message though. So with that and I'm sorry because I'm listening at the same time while doing this, because again, they're very talky and chatty. So I'm trying to keep this short, but at the same time, it's constant information coming in. So okay. So that is a big message, right? It is important at this point to not suppress and to stay. And I also want to reiterate what balance, because we live in we know this, right? We're in a dense realm within this dimension. So the density causes a sense of duality. And so, however, it's changing. Well, but that's not getting started for this one. And so with that duality, that's how you have this expression, right, of masculine or feminine, and how we're kind of two separate beings, so to speak, because there are, other beings who are completely one, right, where they are more defined as more masculine or more feminine, even though we both house both energies, okay? There's even scientific studies out there and research that talks about how at one point that here humanity actually began, of course, as female, because we know that the masculine that was actually sparked from the feminine DNA, right? Okay, but without, like I said, I don't want to get off track, but I just want to make sure it's understandable. And so at one point, feminine energy was able to procreate without an actual male presence, okay? So, and that's because, again, everything is housed within that feminine. And so when we talk about balance, it's also to realize that balance does not mean it's always going to be 50-50. There is this aspect to balance about being able to tap into that oneness and that energy as needed, ascend and descending, okay? There's times in your life where you may need more of the feminine, more of the masculine, being able to draw upon that. But that's just why they are both vitally and equally as important, okay? So, with that said, one of the things the chatty ones that are coming through now are saying, and again, this can apply to different cultures as well, but I'm specifically talking to, I have a lot of ancestors around that are of what we call, like I said, oxide black, melanated, whatever you prefer, beings, okay? So with that, specifically, some of them are saying that there's been this disconnect within the bloodline for some of the different bloodlines because of some of the trauma that we have experienced from slavery. So slavery, as I talked about all the time, is not defining of us. Most of us have very, very ancient DNA. Our history goes beyond that. However, we do still have some things to heal within our bloodline. Those ancestors within these last generations, right, are present. They also need some healing for the full, complete empowerment and DNA activation of our bloodlines, okay? And so the reason I bring that up is because the ones that are coming through and also talking right now are saying that there is a need to also work on making sure we are healing both aspects, because there's been a disconnection in a lot of our lineage between the masculine and the feminine, whether that's because the feminine felt very, very oppressed and suppressed by the masculine, which we see that constantly, right, even playing out in society today, or because also there was a separation where men and women were separated, right, from each other, and it caused this rift within the bloodlines. And so there's this need to also connect them back together. And so what they're saying is that really to utilize both of these energies of the full moon, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, the Mother's Day and upcoming with Father's Day, of course, honor. Like, I'm still going to do my thing for my Ancestral Mothers today, which is going to be very specific, but I'm going to also pull in and include in there the Divine Fathers due to this message that we're getting right now, because there is needed to do that, to connect that, and to make sure that there still isn't this duality, and to bring the bloodline back together as oneness, okay? So that's what they're saying, and that's really, really important. That's the message that's constantly coming through. And the Ancestral Fathers are saying they are here. They want to hold space. They also need to be empowered and welcome to hold that space, because they've also been disempowered, and so they need that energy as well, and to be fed that, and to be revered and honored, in order to give the space for the divine feminine to rise and to elevate and to be protected and to provide you that sacred space. And so that's what they literally are just saying at this moment. So again, I didn't want this to be too long, so I want to cut it off here, but this is a message I'm channeling right now, kind of from the ancestors, okay? It's not and so with the full moon, so this full moon that we just had was a full flower moon, which, you know, the flower piece had a lot to do with blossoming and blooming and all these great things, right? But the full moon was actually in Scorpio, right? And so Scorpio, as we know, is a sign that is very much related to like death, to introspection, you know, a little bit of the darker side of things. And so a lot of times there's a lot of release there. It's putting things to death with that sign. And so while this moon is to bring energy in to unlock the highest potential and to unlock flourish, for us to be able to flourish and to be nourished for the rest of this year, we want to be able to do that, though a part of that is going to be utilizing that death energy to release and put to death those things within us and within our bloodline that is not non-beneficial, that is not honoring of us, and that is holding us back from elevation, okay, and from being empowered. And so that is why you can definitely utilize this energy to tap into, specifically when we're looking at connecting the ancestral mothers and fathers and bringing that energy back into our bloodlines, because you can do whatever ritual or release for that disconnection, banish that, bind that away, release that with that moon, and call in and welcome in the oneness, the connection, the nourishment, the union to be flourished, the blossoming and the blooming back into your bloodline to be whole and to be activated, okay? And so that's how you can utilize that. The Reiki video that I did, which is why I mentioned that as well, because I didn't know that it wasn't posted publicly. You can also play that, utilize that into your rituals or your workings. You can just utilize that for yourself to kind of tap into that energy as well. It is charged with Reiki, also charged with the full moon energy, specifically to help and to aid in that process. Even though I didn't know I was going to be making this video, this audio at that time, but still. So that's the message. Like I said, I don't want this to become too long. I'm kind of teetering on that line, so hopefully that is helpful for you guys. As always, you can send me an email, inbox me on Facebook, you know, it's Realm of the Mystic. Instagram also Realm of the Mystic, spelled the same way with a K. Allure Mystique. And I do have a link below for my Etsy page as well, which has some amazing products just to help you guys through this process too. For some of you, I am going to just say this really quickly, for some who are having a difficult time really connecting with the divine masculine, there are some energies that are very, very helpful to work with that can help kind of facilitate that connection for your own personal healing. I love Obatala for that. He's an amazing energy to work with from a divine father standpoint, more of a grandfatherish kind of figure for me personally, but he's still a great one to work with, to work through whatever healing you may have for that. Ra's another one who's very good as well. So I'm just throwing those two out there because they're kind of hanging around too, and wanted to like use them, utilize them, pull them in. So again, I hope you all, wish you a wonderful, amazing Mother's Day. Even if you are not a mother of a physical child, for the women, you are a mother because you are constantly birthing and creating. So I wish you a fabulous Mother's Day, and I'll be back to talk to you again soon. Bye.